indeed let's get together and talk about our history and what shared truths.
All right, you know what? In that light, if that's what she meant, I love it. But I think Bachman could have used her commentary to say that we Christians are under attack around the world. The UN just said that we will be exterminated in the Middle East unless something is done dramatically, and we call upon Ayatollah Obama to do something to save the Christians that remain in the Middle East. That would have been an appropriate statement to make rather than share Jesus with the Jews.
Well, I just think it's like let's gather our forces in strength, and then.
All right, I get it. I'm not going to argue the point just to be argumentative. People can misinterpret that to think that I simply like to argue. Many people think that that's the name of the game. It isn't. To me, talk radio is about conversation, and that means converse with verse. And so we pause on that note. I send you a free book for the Thanksgiving holiday. If you name it, you gain it. What's the name of my book?
Government Zero, looking so far.
Bingo, you're a winner. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust to protect my wealth with gold and silver. Call 800-BUICO. I can't listen to songs for messages. I mean, you got to be stoned to, like, sit there and get into it. Well, who cares what they're saying? I'm the literate speaker, not them. But anyway, forget about that. I want to use this little moment to take a hiatus from what we're talking about to a somewhat related issue. I was watching a movie last night called Unbroken. I had seen it before, parts of it. It's a little too long, and it's about an Italian-American athlete who was picked on. They called him every derogatory name imaginable when he grew up, I think, in the Middle West. You know, all the names that were applied to Italian immigrants at that time were applied to him. It only made him tougher and harder. And he fought more, harder. He fought back when the boys picked on him. He didn't go crying like a baby to shut them up. And then he became an athlete, and he became an Olympic gold medal winner. An amazing movie. Well, then, of course, World War II comes around. He becomes a pilot. I believe he's a pilot on a B-24, which gets shot down over the Pacific. And he survives, I don't know how many days at sea with one or two fellows in the raft. And then he's captured by the Japanese, who torture him mercilessly to break his spirit. I think his name was Zampiri, or I don't remember his exact name. I apologize. And he survives the Japanese torture. Some of the most vicious vermin on the planet were the Japanese in World War II. I mean, it's all different today, but they were very much like ISIS. They beheaded people. They beheaded Americans and Australians. They went on a rampage in Beijing. In China, not in Beijing. The rape of Nanking, where women were raped repeatedly until they died. The atrocities were equal to that of what ISIS is doing, incidentally. It's almost identical in terms of madness. The point is not to have you get angry at Japanese. That's not the point. The point is that the movie itself and the bravery of the young men who fought in World War II and the young men who fight right now against the totalitarian vision of the Islamo-fascists is what I'm trying to talk about, and how the left is trying to expunge Christianity from the military at the most rapid rate imaginable under Ayatollah Obama. And I watched these boys in those airplanes, even in the fictionalized version, praying to Jesus before they got in the plane, wearing crosses as they flew in their plane, believing that their God and God's Son was on their side protecting them. And I think, how can this country ever fight a war again and win it when you have such degenerates running the military and such degenerates running the government that they won't even permit a young man to follow his own religion unless he's a Muslim, in which case, of course, they bend over backwards, as you well know, to accommodate such religion. And then I saw documentary footage the same night on the American Heroes channel about the invasion of Tarawa, where so many Marines were killed. And I saw prayers on the deck of the ship. I love documentaries, black and white. And I see a priest leading prayers on the deck of a ship about to assault a heavily guarded island. And I see the faces of the boys. These young boys are 18 years old, 19 years old. They look like your neighbor's son or your own son. And I saw the reverence in their faces. They were given the benediction by the priest before they went ashore, many of whom would lose their lives or their limbs, to take battle against this vicious enemy. And something in me started to weep for what this man has done to this country. He certainly didn't start this attack upon faith in America, but Ayatollah Obama has certainly escalated this attack upon the Christian faith in particular to an extent that I don't know how a Christian can even survive in the U.S. military today. And on that note, I will pause as we see Ayatollah Obama's handiwork coming to pass in Missouri, Ferguson, Detroit, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Oakland, wherever you turn. He has created nothing but hatred and dissension. That's why I call it Government Zero.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
I'm not in the mood. I don't know. Rock and roll doesn't work for my head today. I want to go back to that movie, Unbroken, for a minute. It was much too long by an hour. I think Angela Jolie directed it. Did you see it, Robert? It's a pretty amazing movie. The best scenes in that movie are the scenes inside the B-24 on a bombing run over an island in the Pacific, and seeing the bravery of the boys, manning the belly gun and flying it and landing it, crash landing it on a base, because this went on all the time. The courage, the guts of the young men in that as portrayed in that movie is amazing to me. We have the same today in the military, of course. The same men, of course, in a different generation, obviously, are still flying the planes. They're still sailing the ships. They're still driving the tanks. They're still marching into combat. The difference, though, is that they can't worship the way they wished they can. The military is infested with perversion. The military is infested with Wicca, witch religions. The military is infested with you would call political correctness, but I would call something far more sinister than political correctness. And how it ends is anyone's guess. I don't know how it ends. I don't know whether this can ever be corrected. I don't know whether Donald Trump can correct it single-handedly when the cancer is so far spread through every institution of this nation. A cancer doctor tries to cure cancer, and the opposite of a cancer doctor would be someone who tries to spread cancer. Do I have to fill in the blank? I think that statement says it all. The opposite of a cancer specialist will be someone trying to spread a cancer. Who is it that's spreading the cancer of communism, Maoism, Marxism, whatever you want to call it? Which ism is it that is being spread by these evil people in the White House? Again, I have to play for you the worst person in the history of the president's office, in my opinion. The worst, the absolute lowest. And the reason he's the lowest is that I don't know whether he actually believes this or he's that sick that he can lie with such aplomb. I want you to listen to clip 4, Josh Ernst, before he had to burn his suit, from this shameful speech talking about a testament to the shared values of that community in Missouri, where all the students can find a place without hate and intolerance as they shame a president off the campus. So who is orchestrating this? I would think that it's run out of the White House. My guess is it's being run by someone very close to the president. I think I can tell you the name, but I dare not do so for fear of being sued. I guarantee you there's a direct action office in the White House basement running this program of violence and hatred against America. I don't even want to play it again. What's the point? WJR, John, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Yes, Michael, I have a serious question I want to ask you, but first I want to say I think it's very ironic that the University of Missouri, where this a reporter is being thrown off campus, used to be one of the finest journalism schools in the country.
Well, hold it. Now, that's important, yes. The University of Missouri School of Journalism was one of the top schools for journalism, But what happened was they were infested by people who had no literacy whatsoever. They just had hatred, and they were able to bull their way into the department and take it over. And I can't go any further than that because I think you know who I'm talking about, meaning the type. You know the type, don't you?
Well, certainly not, but that seems to follow. But my question regarding the Red Guard, the new Red Guard, in China they were able to get rid of the Red Guard because there was a totalitarian government that eventually washed it away. How are we in this country going to be able to wash away this scourge?
You ask a question for which I have no answer. The only hope is that we fight with them every day on shows like this and expose them for the vermin that they are. And expose them not for being football players who have been exposed to hurtful words, but to morons who are being manipulated by white communists who are controlling all of this.
Well, it's
now, that's my impression. This mob in Missouri is being controlled the same way the mobs in the streets of Ferguson were being controlled out of a central command somewhere. Somebody is agitating them. This did not come from the football players. You well know that.
Oh, of course not. I worry that even if we get a Republican president this year, will the powers that be still be sustained enough to prevent us cleansing this country of this kind of vermin?
I don't know. We know that the majority of students on campuses are subjected to browbeating every day about the wonders of the universe that these people reside in, and they hate it. The children who are on the campuses, the young people, hate the brainwashing that they are subjected to. The forced diversity lessons, which they know is all lies. The forced lessons about sexuality, which they know is sickening and all lies. The attacks upon Christianity, which they detest in their core, even if they're not religious. So maybe the hope is that the masses of students themselves will eventually rise up and say enough is enough, go to you know where. Okay, my friend, I try the literary approach, books, radio. I'm sending you Government Zero, and I want to thank you for listening and calling with such a wonderful statement. WABC, Jim, go ahead, please. You have an interesting point.
Yes, 2 points. First off, I agree with you that there's got to be some kind of choreographic effort being made, because from one institution to the next, they're singing the same tune. And secondly, this 1950 organization in Missouri not only caused a man to lose his job, take care of his family, but also they want him to admit that there's white privilege. Think about this, Michael. If there was white privilege, this man would never have been forced to remove his job.
Look, let's stop with the white privilege. We know the reverse is true right now. Let's not spell it out so they can crucify me with it. This is identical to the Cultural Revolution of Mao Zedong's China, where they forced people who were expressing old culture, old customs, old ideas to apologize, publicly humiliated them, made them walk through the streets with placards hung around their necks. How different is what happened in communist China to what these thugs demanded of the president, that he write out an apology and read it in public? It's right out of Mao Zedong's playbook.
Exactly.
But I'm the only one in the media who said that. I'm the only one who made the connection. And that's because in the past I talked about the Cultural Revolution of Mao Zedong, which, by the way, led to the killing of 30 million people. Don't think it ends with students screaming and shooting their loud mouths off. It ends very badly unless they are stopped right now. And that means standing up and saying, no, you're the ones who are the evil ones. You are the ones who are conducting hurtful speech. You are the ones who need to stop right now. And that has to come from the liberals in America who still have the guts to stand up to these low-life thugs. Thank you for the call. Have we covered this topic sufficient? I don't know. I don't know you could ever cover a topic like this sufficiently. I don't know if it's a topic that's even resonating with the average American. All I know is that I see it as something contextually related to Mao Zedong. We then have Senator Claire McCaskill, again, an individual who needs no introduction, who congratulates the thugs on the campus, and listen to clips 6 and 7 on the Savage Nation.
I certainly have been in contact with the administration, but the credit goes to these kids. The credit goes to these kids who took a stand. I was proud that it wasn't just the black players that were in that picture. It was the team.